When the first two episodes of season one came to me with the possibility of doing the show, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. I felt the first two episodes were really well written, but most of all, I really enjoyed the character journey. Just a pat answer for television, but the bottom line is if you don't have that, you don't really have a show. I mean, interesting concepts are one thing, but you really have to have something that's on the page. But also, too, I felt the character of Hickman from the beginning. He was so fractured in so many ways, just in the first two episodes, and that's rare in itself to get that much insight into one character. So that was fascinating. But the decision to want to do the show, that had to do with my wife. Because the bottom line was, I wouldn't even contemplate thinking of commuting from Prague or other parts in Europe to LA as often as I could to see my kids. It really came down to a conversation that I had with my beautiful wife, Kimmy, whether this was something that we wanted to embrace together to do this. And so that's where it all began. And then our Prague journey began. From the beginning, there was so much to learn about Hickman right from the get-go. In those first two episodes, you found out so much of where he came from, where he was going, the problems that he had, the things that were affecting his life, the things that were keeping his life from moving on. All this stuff, to me, is the most interesting thing. He has a problem with his hand. It's not just that he can't use his hand, it's emotionally how it affects him and where it came from and how it's driven his life. And all of this stuff is not backstory that I'm making up. All of this stuff we got in the first season. Season two starts to touch into his life back in New York. And he reacquaints with his ex-partner on a personal level and certainly professionally. The character of Amanda Andrews that Carrie-Anne Moss plays. For me, was probably the season highlight for Hickman and for Bill. Having Carrie-Anne around was amazing. There's more exploration into that side of it. I think that there's so much room to go. The potential of what the show is and where it could branch out. It takes a very broad subject of let's get an international group of people together and basically create this new sort of policing unit. That is such a broad concept that subsequent years after this, we could tackle so many different areas to go into. I think we're at our best when we're a police show, when we go after certain things and how smart we can be about that. But we also touch into, who the characters are and how they're affected by things. There's all sorts of worlds to explore with Hickman. I wear a glove. And so once the glove goes on, it's basically, you're not really using the hand, but that's only the physical aspect. What was not lost on me in the very first two episodes of the first season when I read them about this glove, it's not so much that he wears a glove, doesn't have the use of his hand. It was the hand that he shot with, it was the hand that he wrote with. It changed his entire career. He was let go of the NYPD because of this injury. His sense of self, I'm sure, was massively affected by it. It's all of that stuff that's very interesting about not having the use of his right hand. How does that affect one human's life? I mean, basically, this entire direction of his life had to go in another direction because of something. The emotional journey about that is of far greater importance and interest to me, and clearly the character, than just not having the use of it. Now, in our second season, Carrie-Anne Moss's character, Amanda Andrews, will present something to Hickman to think about. which will be very interesting, and it has to do with his hand. It's wonderful because we're in Prague, and Prague is a city outside of. I grew up in upstate New York. I've lived in New York City most of my life. I live in LA now. I can't believe it, but I do. But I have a deep, deep love affair with Prague. I don't think if the show was in Prague, I don't think I would be a part of it. And that's how much I love being there. I love being there with my family. There's so much about that. But also with that, you know, to do television in the States, we have amazing crews. The work ethic is, to work on any production, film or television, in the States, it's, you know, I consider it the best in the world. I've got to put our incredible Czech crew right up there with them, and it does make a difference. Any television show pretty much is 6 pounds of bologna in a 2-pound bag every episode. It's a lot. There's more in the page than you have 8 or 9 days. You know, you need more than that, but you don't have more than that. You have to get it done, and that comes down to like amazing crews, and we have one, and we have for the first 2 seasons. So all of those factors, you know, you start to put those together, and now, you know, then you start to get in the ball game of making something really good. There's so many layers that I think that it takes. You know, this is 10%, and that's 15, and that's 10, and that's 12%. Yeah, add them all up, and if you get as close as you can out of from everyone, you're going to get close to 100%, and then you're going to make a good show.